Why you got Sack and Juvie tattooed on you? They not dead. I wouldn't tat nobody on me that's not dead. 2 days after that, these boys dead.
Well, it just, which one were you close with?
Both of them. Every last one of them.
Both of them. Every single one. Melly's entire case has taken a huge turn because a close friend finally leaked that late-night footage. And what he revealed is shocking. The streets are asking questions. The internet is going crazy. And this new clip might completely change everything we thought we knew about that night. Let's get into the details of this major update. These leaked videos came out in November 2025 and showed Jacob Mills, a close friend who was there that night. They give us the most detailed insider look we've ever had about what really happened when Sackhazer and Juvie were killed. But this isn't some blurry cell phone recording of the actual murders. This is real, unedited interrogation footage. It has the streets talking and the internet losing its mind. I already know my people who passed away would never have expected this.
I already know. My dead and gone. I already know what y'all here for.
Well, it just, which one were you close with?
Both of them. Every last one of them.
Did you grow up with them?
Every last one of them.
Real talk, this footage hits different because Mills was actually there that night. He was in the red car following the Jeep where the murders supposedly took place. This isn't secondhand talk or random street rumors. This is firsthand testimony from someone who was part of the crew, someone who knew everyone involved, someone who watched the situation unfold from the inside. But to understand why this footage is blowing up all over social media, we need to go back to the beginning of the case that's kept the streets talking for over 6 years. Everything started on October 26, 2018, when two rising rappers, Anthony YNW Sackhazer Williams and Christopher YNW Juvie Thomas Jr., were found dead inside a Jeep Cherokee at Memorial Hospital. YNW Melly, whose real name is Yamel Demons, wasn't just some random guy in the mix. He was one of their closest friends, family, even. They were all part of the same YNW collective, coming up together in the Florida rap scene and building something from scratch. These weren't enemies. These were supposed to be brothers who had each other's backs no matter what. The first story reported was that Cortland YNW Bortland Henry drove the victims to the hospital after they got hit in a random drive-by shooting. On the surface, it looked like another heartbreaking case of young black men caught in street violencia, tragedy we see way too often. But once investigators started digging deeper, the whole story fell apart like a house of cards in a storm. Forensic evidence told a completely different version of events. Instead of the bullets coming from outside the Jeep, autopsies showed both victims were shot from inside the vehicle. And even more shocking, bullet paths lined up with the spot where Melly was said to be sitting. Let me break it down, because this is where things get crazy. Prosecutors believe that around 1 a.m. on October 26, 2018, 8 young men pulled up to New Era Recording Studio in Fort Lauderdale to work on music. Nothing unusual, studios stay busy with artists grinding through the night. But according to the leaked footage, the energy was off from the very beginning. Mills says that everyone was acting strange that night. Nobody seemed like themselves. Sackhazer was apparently being extra aggressive. He was even slapping people for falling asleep during the studio session. The whole vibe was toxic. Nothing productive was happening, and by 3:19 a.m., everyone decided to wrap it up and head home. Now here's where the timeline becomes important. The group split into 2 vehicles. 4 guys got into a red Mitsubishi SUV, Trevion Glass, Dontavia Sithers, Jacob Mills, and Adrian Davis. The other 4 got into a gray Jeep Cherokee, Cortland Henry driving, Anthony Williams in the front passenger seat, Christopher Thomas in the back, and Yamel YNW Melly Demons sitting in the rear driver's side seat. Surveillance cameras caught both cars taking the same route at first down I-95 south to 595, across to I-75 south, and finally toward Miramar Parkway. Everything looked normal. 2 cars of tired young men heading home after a long studio session. But this is where things take a dark turn. At 184th Avenue, the red Mitsubishi kept going south and was recorded entering the Sunset Lakes gated community at 3:50 a.m., the same neighborhood where most of the group stayed. But the gray Jeep never appeared on that surveillance footage. Instead, phone data later showed the Jeep went north. And this is where the story gets chilling. The Jeep traveled north on 184th to Pines Boulevard, then west toward the edge of the Everglades, an empty, pitch-black area where no one would see or hear anything. From there, it went south on US 27 and turned onto Pembroke Road, which dead ends at a trash facility. According to the cell phone data, this isolated location is where the murders allegedly happened at 4:02 a.m. But here's the part that makes this case unbelievable. When police searched the stretch of Miramar Parkway where the drive-by supposedly happened, they found nothing. No shell casings, no broken glass, no bullet holes, no skid marks. Nothing at all to support a drive-by shooting. Meanwhile, the medical examiner revealed something even more shocking. At 4:02 a.m., when the drive-by was staged, both victims were already dead. The extra gunshot wounds that looked like drive-by shots were actually added after they'd been killed, meaning The shots from outside the vehicle were fired post-mortem. Let that sink in. According to prosecutors, Melly and Bortland didn't just kill their frenzy, tried to cover it up by driving around with the bodies, then shooting up the Jeep from the outside to make it look like a random attack. That's cold and calculate way beyond a simple argument gone wrong. And the prosecution didn't stop there. Prosecutors also brought up Instagram DMIs, where someone asked Melly about the deaths, and he allegedly replied, "I did that." They showed evidence linking Melly to the G-Shine Bloods, and revealed that just 2 days before the murders, he was learning the gang's loyalty oath. The first trial ended in a mistrial in July 2023 because the jury couldn't agree on a verdict. The retrial has been delayed many times and is now scheduled for January 2027. Melly has been locked up for over 6 years with no conviction, while his co-defendant, Bortland, accepted a plea deal in October 2025 for accessory charges. Now we get to why these leaked videos are such a huge deal. Jacob Mills, also known as Jacob Mills or Cortez Tezius, described as Bortland's blood cousin. He was one of the people riding in the red car that night. That means he was close enough to know what happened but removed enough to survive and talk about it. These videos were originally recorded in January 2019, just a few months after the murders and long before most case details became public. That timing matters because Mills was talking about things that wouldn't be revealed for years. That gives his statements a lot more credibility. The fact that this footage is only now surfacing in November 2025, right as the retrial is being prepared, raises big questions about timing and intention. Are these leaks meant to shape public opinion? Are they connected to ongoing civil lawsuits? Or did they come out now because of discovery in other related cases? The hip-hop community's response has been intense. Everyone from DJ academics to random Twitter users is chiming in. The streets are completely divided. Some people see this as the smoking gun that proves Melly is guilty. Others think Mills is a snitch who broke the street code for his own benefit. What makes things even more complicated is that Mills keeps denying he's a snitch during the interrogation. He claims he's just trying to help his friends, but the details he gives are so specific and so damaging that it's hard to see how they help anyone except the prosecution. Mills is spilling everything. This might be the most explosive confession hip-hop has ever seen. Alright, we're back and it's about to get real intense. If you thought part 1 was crazy, buckle up. We're about to dig into exactly what Jacob Mills said in that interrogation room. And trust me, this footage is more shocking than anything hip-hop fans have seen in years. This man basically laid out the entire blueprint of what allegedly happened that night. Some of the details are so specific they'll send chills down your spine. Mills starts by giving a minute-by-minute breakdown of the studio session. And from the very beginning, he says the energy was off. They arrived at New Era recording studio around midnight, but instead of their usual focused grind, everyone was tired and falling asleep. And if you know, the hood studio time is expensive. You don't waste it unless something is seriously wrong. But here's where Mills' story really gets interesting. He describes Sackhazer as being extremely aggressive and controlling, slapping people for nodding off during the session. And if you understand street dynamics, you know that kind of disrespect in front of the whole crew usually leads to heavy tension or a major blow-up. Mills also says Sackhazer was crazy and had a violent history, which lines up with other claims about ongoing issues in the group, arguments over money, power, and who was really in control. Money, power, and who was really in control.
He pulled that gun on me.
Saying Kobe pulled a gun on her?
Yep, 5:30 that morning. She called out of work and she called. Wait, stop.
And you really
stop.
can't even tell Courtney. I know what.
Yeah, don't say it. Don't say it.
That's what she told Mariah too, because that's what Mariah told me. Jamie just called me at 8 and told me.
Melly called her at like 5:30 that morning.
This brings us to something that has been whispered about in the streets for years, but never fully confirmed: the money disputes that may have led to the murders. According to several sources in the leaked audio, there were serious disagreements over a record deal worth several $100,000. Sackhazer reportedly believed he was the CEO of YNW and that he deserved half of whatever Melly earned. Mills then gives details about the seating arrangement in the Jeep, details that are crucial for understanding what happened. He says Bortland was driving. Sackhazer sat in the front passenger seat. Melly was behind Bortland, and Juvie sat behind Sackhazer. Mills himself was in the red car, with Tay driving Fetty in the passenger seat and Adrian Davis in the back. But here's the part that always gives me chills. Mills says he originally tried to get into the Jeep, but felt something almost like divine whether you believe in intuition, fate, or something spiritual. That detail suggests Mills sensed danger around that specific group. Mills also mentions that Juvie gathered weapons from the studio before they left, and that Melly was carrying a brown satchel that supposedly held a gun. This supports the prosecution's theory that the murders were planned, not just a sudden argument that spiraled out of control. Now, here's where things get really wild. Mills says the group reached the house in Sunset Lakes and waited about 30 minutes outside because no one had keys. Most of the group eventually went inside and fell asleep. But then, Around 4 a.m., Mills gets a chilling phone call from his mother saying someone called her and threatened, "Y'all all dead." Let that sink in. His mother receives a threat in the middle of the night warning that her son and his friends are in danger. That's deep street politics one. People start threatening family members. The situation has gone far beyond simple business issues. Mills then talks about getting multiple missed calls from Melly. Melly also called Druth Group's videographer 17 times. When someone is calling that aggressively in the middle of the night, you know something serious has gone down. And then we reach the most damaging part of Mills' testimony. He describes how Melly FaceTimed him after the murders and says Melly was completely faking his emotions. According to Mills, Melly was pretending to cry, acting devastated, but there were no tears at all. It looked like a performance meant to sell the story that he was heartbroken over his friends' deaths. And in street culture, being able to fake emotions after violence is something only the coldest, most calculating individuals can pull off. If Mills's account is true, we're talking about someone who could kill his closest friends and then instantly switch into acting mode to hide what he'd done. That's extremely cold and almost sociopathic behavior. Mills also shares specific details about Melly's appearance when he saw him later at Frito Bang's house. He says Melly had changed into a tank top and gym shorts, a change of clothes that could suggest he got rid of what he was wearing during the incident. Other witnesses in the trial also mentioned outfit changes, which supports this detail. But it gets even crazier. Mills describes how the next morning, the crew went searching through nearby woods and actually found a .40 caliber handgun. Mills says he even held the bloody gun before a manager took it from him. They were also searching for a second weapon attack, likely a TEC-9, but they never found it. This detail is huge because prosecutors have always said they never recovered the murder weapon despite tons of searching. Mills's version of events suggests the weapons were found and then hidden or disposed of by the crew, which would explain why police never located them. Throughout all this, Mills repeatedly says that Bortland wasn't involved in the actual killing. He claims Bortland doesn't live that kind of life and wouldn't be capable of something that cold-blooded. That could explain why Bortland was able to take a plea deal for accessory charges instead of facing full murder charges like Melly. But Mills doesn't stop at describing the event, also gives his own thoughts on why it happened. And this is where things get extremely controversial. He talks about the whole situation feeling like a setup and even compares it to other big cases like King Von's murder. But the most explosive part comes when he starts questioning whether NBA YoungBoy knew anything about the situation. The
remix of Melly song, listen to that. What he said, bust a nigga head, something.
Mills specifically brings up NBA YoungBoy and asks how he knew so many details about what happened. He talks about certain social media posts and mentions an alleged remix song that supposedly included insider information about the murders. But here's where we need to slow down for a second. Despite deep searches online, there's no evidence that this remix ever existed, and no federal investigation has connected NBA YoungBoy to these murders in any way. Still, the fact that Mills even mentioned YoungBoy is significant. There were reported conflicts between their crews in the past, and in hip-hop, those kinds of beefs can escalate fast. Whether YoungBoy had anything to do with this or not, the idea that his name is being brought up shows just how tangled the politics of this case really are. What makes Mills's statements especially powerful is how many details he shared back in 2019, details that weren't public at the time but were later proven true. For example, Mills said that Juvie's thumb was shot off. That wasn't confirmed publicly until attorney John Phillips released autopsy photos in 2025. Mills also accurately described where Melly was picked up by Frito Bang that only matched cell phone data revealed years later during trial. But even with all this, Mills keeps saying he's not. He insists he's only trying to help his friends. At one point, he even admits he's afraid they might kill his family if they find out he cooperated with police.
If we done jumped in front of them, it was already too late. We can't try to pull over and get back behind them.
The reaction to these leaks has been wild on social media. Hip-hop personalities like DJ Academics have broken down the footage, while fans on Reddit and Twitter are debating whether Mills is a trustworthy witness or just another snitch trying to protect himself. What's really interesting is how these revelations tie into the bigger picture of loyalty and betrayal in hip-hop culture. On the streets, there's an unwritten rule: never cooperate with the police. But when a friend is murdered and you suspect someone else in your circle, those lines can get blurry really fast. In the final part, we'll look at what this means for Melly's upcoming trial, how it's affecting other people in the hip-hop community, and the bigger impact on street culture in the music industry. This story isn't just about one murder, it's about loyalty, money, power, and what happens when those things go wrong. The fallout, how this changes everything for hip-hop. We've reached the final chapter of this crazy story. The ripple effects from these leaked videos are spreading through the culture like wildfire. This isn't just about one case anymore. It's changing conversations about loyalty, snitching, street politics, and even the music industry itself. The fallout from Mills's revelations is hitting every level, from legal matters to industry politics to the rules that guide street culture. First, let's talk about the legal side. These leaks are coming out right as Melly's trial is being prepared, and that timing isn't accidental. Legal experts say that the footage probably won't be allowed in court because of authentication and hearsay issues. But millions of people have already seen it, which makes picking an unbiased jury much harder.
Hell downstairs, I say, Eddie, see a Sack and Melly in the room. He already sleep in the Sack room. He had ran to the stairway because he heard me talking crazy, like, man, what the f going on? He looking lost, like, what's going on, bro? I say, man, go see a Sack in his room.
Think about ITHO. Do you find 12 completely impartial jurors when half the internet has already watched Mills explain exactly what he thinks happened that night? Defense lawyers are definitely going to try to block this evidence and may even push for the trial to be moved to another location because finding a fair jury after this viral explosion is almost impossible. Here's where it gets really interesting from a strategy perspective. Some people think these leaks might be linked to ongoing civil wrongful death lawsuits, where the victims' families are seeking money. In civil court, the rules are different. Hearsay is allowed more often, and the burden of proof is lower than in criminal court. Even Frito Bang has been pulled into depositions for the civil case. He wasn't directly involved in what happened that night, but because Mills mentioned that Melly came to his house afterward, he's now caught up in the legal process. This has even caught the attention of big names like 50 Cent, showing how this case continues to grab the hip-hop community's attention. Now let's look at the street politics side, because that's where it gets really complicated. Leaked audio of Sack Chaser's family talking the day after the murders gives insight into tensions within YW. Family members are discussing money issues and talking about how Sack was trying to stop Melly from signing what they called a devil's deal.
Like DeAndre told somebody, everything Melly get, I get half.
Me do.
You hear that? He said he do. He just said Juvie and DeAndre, Sack Chaser, are YNW. And Sack Chaser is supposed to get half of everything.
This brings up something people have been whispering about in the streets for years. The idea that these murders were really about money and control, not just random violence or gang drama. When you're talking about record deals worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and one person thinks they deserve half while the other disagrees, things can turn deadly very quickly. The family audio also hints at suspicions about Melly's mother and what she did after the murders. There are claims that a storage unit was rented the morning after the killings, possibly to move belongings and even hide evidence.